The stars above 4 were beautiful that morning. 12 million humans lived on this green world, far from Earth, far from the politics of the galaxy. They were farmers, teachers, doctors, and children who had never known war. They woke up that day thinking it would be like any other. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of his small flagship, drinking his morning tea. His defense fleet was tiny, only 15 ships meant to protect against pirates, not war. He was an old man now, close to retirement, looking forward to growing vegetables on the colony below. His wife waited for him there, his plate in the fields. The warning came too late. Captain was running patrol near the outer planets when her sensors screamed. Hundreds of ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. They were one of the elder species of the Galactic Council. Their ships were massive, covered in golden armor, built for war over thousands of years. She tried to contact them, no response. She tried again, nothing. Then they opened fire on the colony. Watch from her small ship as beams of white light struck the surface of 4. Each beam was a city dying. Each flash was a million dreams turning to ash. She screamed into her radio, begging for them to stop, but they did not listen. They did not care. Admiral Park threw his fleet against the enemy, 15 ships against hundreds. It was not a battle, it was a slaughter. His flagship took 7 direct hits before the engines died. Floating in the wreckage, bleeding from his head, he watched his world burn through a cracked window. His wife, everyone he loved, gone in fire. Did not freeze. She could not save everyone, but she could save someone. She flew her ship low, through the flames and falling debris, landing in the capital city. Around her, buildings collapsed. People ran screaming through streets filled with smoke. The sky itself was on fire. Her younger brother found her there. He was a university student, 22 years old, studying to be an engineer. His face was covered in ash and tears. He carried a little girl in his arms, a child he had found crying alone in the ruins. Together they gathered survivors, 40,000 people. That was all they could find. 40,000 out of 12 million. Packed them into every ship that could still fly, and they fled into the darkness of space. Behind them, 4 became a dead world, its surface turned to glass by weapons. The news reached Earth 3 days later. President was a calm woman, known for her soft voice and gentle smile. But when she saw the images of 4, something changed in her eyes. She had been a mother once. She understood what had been lost. She called for justice. Humanity demanded answers. Why had they attacked? Why had they killed 12 million innocent people? The Galactic Council agreed to hear humanity's case. This council was old, older than human civilization itself. 342 species sat in the Great Chamber, beings of every shape and color. They had ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years. In all that time, no young species had ever challenged them. High Arbiter was not human. He was not even close to human. He was a creature of light and crystal, ancient beyond measure, and he looked at the human ambassador the way a man looks at an insect. The ambassador showed evidence, recordings of the attack, lists of the dead, images of children who would never grow up. She begged for justice, for punishment against for some recognition that what happened was wrong. Listened, then he spoke. The had claimed that 4 was in their ancestral territory. The council had reviewed the claim. The council had decided that they acted within acceptable parameters. There would be no punishment. There would be no justice. But that was not all. To prevent future conflict, the council commanded humanity to leave all 17 of their colony worlds. Humans would return to Earth and stay there. They would not expand. They would not grow. They would accept their place as a small, unimportant species at the edge of the galaxy. This was peace, said. This was the Council's gift to humanity. The transmission ended. The Great Chamber fell silent. In the war room on Earth, military leaders and politicians stared at each other in shock. 12 million dead, and the Council called it acceptable. 12 million murdered, and humanity was told to be grateful. Fleet Marshal was a soldier. He had fought pirates and rebels for 40 years. He had never felt rage like this. His hands shook as he looked at President. She stood slowly. Her face was pale, her eyes were wet, but her voice was steady. "They killed 12 million of our people," she said. "They burned our children. They destroyed our world. And they call it peace." She turned to show them what humanity calls justice. The fleet marshal nodded. Around the room, officers straightened their backs. They had been farmers, scientists, explorers. They had wanted nothing but to live among the stars in peace. Now they would become something else. On a refugee ship far from Earth held her brother close. She had stopped crying days ago. She had no more tears left. But in her heart a fire burned. They had taken everything from her. The council had laughed at human suffering. She made a promise that night, to her dead parents, to the 12 million souls of 4, to the little girl her brother had saved, now sleeping peacefully, not knowing she was an orphan. They would pay, all of them, no matter how long it took, no matter what it cost. Humanity would have its justice. 6 months passed. The galaxy watched humanity with cold eyes, waiting to see the small species break. The council expected tears, surrender, and obedience. News reports showed human ships leaving their colonies. Satellites captured images of shipyards being taken apart. Diplomats from elder species visited Earth and saw a broken people. They saw exactly what Director IM wanted them to see. Was not a soldier. She was something more dangerous. She was the head of human intelligence, a woman who had spent 30 years learning how to lie, how to hide, how to make enemies see only shadows. She was 53 years old, with gray hair and kind eyes that hid a mind as sharp as a knife. The evacuation was real. The surrendered colonies were real. But what the galaxy did not see was where those people actually went. Deep inside asteroid fields, hidden in the clouds of gas giants, buried under the frozen surfaces of dead moons, humanity was building. Not just ships, not just weapons. They were building a war machine unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Chief Engineer worked 20 hours a day. He was a thin man with thick glasses and oil-stained hands. Before the massacre, he designed farming equipment. Now he designed instruments of death. The council species built beautiful ships. Their vessels were elegant, covered in artwork, designed for honor and glory. They fought according to ancient rules. Battles were announced days in advance. Challenges were issued. There were ceremonies before and after combat. War, to them, was a kind of dance. Did not build beautiful ships. He built ugly things, ships covered in weapons, filled with missiles, designed only to kill as quickly and efficiently as possible. He built that could fire metal slugs at a fraction of the speed of light. He built swarm missiles that carried 10,000 warheads each. He built something called massive engines that even Fleet Marshal did not fully understand. When asked why his ships were so ugly, simply shrugged. "Pretty ships die the same as ugly ones," he said, "but ugly ships can carry more guns." The human fleet grew. Before the massacre, humanity had 200 warships. Now, hidden across 17 systems, they had 12,000. Every factory that once made farming tools now made weapons. Every scientist who once studied plants now studied ways to kill. Even children helped, carrying messages, counting supplies, doing small jobs that let adults focus on the great work. Admiral Park had wanted to die on 4. He had begged God to let him burn with his family, but he survived, and survival meant duty. He was an old man now, older than before. His hair had turned white. His eyes had sunk deep into his face. But when he stood before his officers, his voice was still strong. He would command the human navy. He would lead them to victory or death. There was no third option. Commander was not the same woman who had fled 4. The softness in her face was gone. She had trained herself into a weapon, spending every waking hour studying tactics, practicing combat, pushing her body and mind to their limits. She commanded the 7th Strike Fleet now, 1,500 ships crewed by survivors of the massacre. Every person under her command had lost someone. Every person burned with the same fire. Her brother served as her tactical officer. He had given up his dream of being an engineer. Now he studied enemy weaknesses, looking for ways to hurt them, ways to make them suffer. The little girl he had saved on 4 lived on Earth now, adopted by a good family. Sometimes wondered if that girl remembered. She hoped not. Some memories were too heavy for children. The council sent observers to verify human compliance. Agent greeted them with a smile. He was a young man, handsome and charming, the kind of person everyone trusted. He showed them empty shipyards. He showed them dismantled weapons. He showed them weeping humans who begged for mercy. None of it was real. The empty shipyards were fake, built by workers who took them apart and rebuilt them 3 times for the cameras. The dismantled weapons had never worked in the first place. The weeping humans were actors, some of the best on Earth, playing their parts perfectly. The observers returned to the council with their report. Humans are broken, they said. They are no threat. They will never be a threat again. High Arbiter received the news with satisfaction. He had crushed many young species in his long life. Humans were no different. In a generation, they would forget their anger. In 10 generations, they would forget they had ever dreamed of the stars. He was wrong. On the anniversary of the massacre, President stood before the Council of War. Around her sat admirals, generals, engineers, and spies. These were the people who would change history. These were the humans who refused to kneel. She looked at each face, seeing the pain they carried, the rage they hid, the hope they still held. 1 year ago, she said, they called us insects. They burned our world and told us to be grateful. They commanded peace. She smiled. It was not a kind smile. Tomorrow we show them our answer. The room was silent. Then Admiral Park stood, then Commander, then Fleet Marshal. One by one, every person in that room rose to their feet. 12,000 ships waited in the darkness. 12 million souls demanded justice. The galaxy would remember this day forever. The Galactic Council gathered on Nexus Prime for their annual assembly. 342 species filled the great chamber, beings of light and shadow, creatures of flesh and metal, things that swam through void and things that burned like small suns. They had done this for 50,000 years. They expected to do it for 50,000 more. High Arbiter opened the session with traditional words. Peace endures. Order continues. The galaxy is stable. He was still speaking when every light in the chamber turned red. At exactly 1400 hours Galactic Standard Time, 12,000 human warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel across the galaxy. They appeared above colony worlds beside space stations, around shipyards and military bases. They had traveled in silence, hidden in the gaps between stars, waiting for this single moment. Now they struck. Commander watched Prime grow large in her. This was the species that had killed her parents, her friends, everyone she had known as a child. Billions of lived on that blue-green world below. Their orbital platforms circled the planet like a ring of steel. She felt nothing, not hatred, not satisfaction, just cold, clear purpose. All ships, she said, begin attack. Her 1,500 ships opened fire as one. The defenses were strong, built over thousands of years, designed to stop any invasion. They lasted 90 minutes. Human missiles came in waves of 10,000 at a time. When they shot down one wave, another followed. Then another. Then another. Their point defense systems overheated. Their shields collapsed. Their proud orbital platforms died one by one, falling into the atmosphere like burning stars. But did not glass their world. She could have. She had the weapons. She had the anger. But she had also learned something from 4. You showed us no mercy, she broadcast to the planet below. We could do the same. Instead, we leave you alive. Live with the knowledge that humans chose to spare you. Live with the shame. She turned her fleet away from Prime and moved to join the main battle. Admiral Park led the largest human fleet against the Council's combined forces. The elder species had gathered their greatest warriors, their most honored ships, their ancient weapons of terrible power. They outnumbered the humans 3-1. It did not matter. The elder species fought according to tradition. The demanded formal challenges before combat, the required ceremonial pauses to honor the dead. The Burning Lords expected enemies to identify themselves before attacking. This was how civilized species fought. This was the way of the galaxy. Humans did not fight like civilized species. Park gave one order: kill them all. Human ships did not form pretty lines. They swarmed like angry insects, attacking from every direction at once. When a council ship tried to issue a challenge, human missiles were already striking its hull. When a captain demanded a pause to honor the fallen, human tore his bridge apart. The elder species did not understand. This was not war. This was slaughter. Chief Engineer had designed the human weapons for exactly this moment. His missiles carried 10,000 warheads each, overwhelming enemy defenses with sheer numbers. His fired metal slugs so fast they punched through shields like paper. His ships were ugly, crude, and absolutely deadly. The flagship was the largest vessel in the combined fleet. It had served for 10,000 years, its name honored across the galaxy. Its captain had won 100 battles. He sent a message to Admiral Park, demanding a one-on-one duel according to ancient custom. Park responded by launching 40,000 missiles at once. The flagship lasted 11 seconds. On Nexus Prime, the Council watched in horror as their fleets died. Status reports came in from across the galaxy. Human ships were everywhere. Shipyards burned. Defense stations went silent. Colony worlds surrendered rather than face destruction. Then President appeared. Her hologram stood in the center of the great chamber, small among giants, a human woman facing the masters of the galaxy. She wore simple clothes. Her face was tired, but her eyes burned with something the Council had not seen in 50,000 years. Defiance. 1 year ago, she said, you told us to accept peace. You told us to surrender our homes, our futures, our dreams. You called the death of 12 million humans acceptable. She paused. Around her, the elder species were silent. We did not accept. We will never accept. Every world you took from us, we have taken back. Every ship you built to threaten us, we have destroyed. You commanded peace. This is our answer. High Arbiter rose from his seat. He was ancient, powerful, a being who had crushed empires. But for the first time in his long life, he felt something he did not recognize. Fear. 17 council species lost their fleets that day. The Dominion existed only because had chosen mercy. The combined forces were broken, scattered, fleeing into the darkness between stars. And humanity was just getting started. Commander stood on her bridge as the stars burned around her. Her brother worked beside her, calling out targets, coordinating attacks, fighting the war he had never wanted. She allowed herself one small smile. "This is for 4," she whispered. "This is for everyone." The galaxy would never be the same. The galaxy had not known chaos for 50,000 years. Now it drowned in it. News of humanity's attack spread faster than light. Species that had never questioned the Council began to whisper. If humans could challenge the elder races, what else was possible? What other lies had they been told? Fleet Marshal understood that winning battles was not enough. Humanity could not fight 300 species alone. They needed allies. They needed to break the Council from within. He called it the Liberation Campaign. There were a small species, gentle beings who looked like walking flowers. 50,000 years ago, they had resisted the Council. As punishment, they had been made servants. They cleaned the halls of power. They served food to their masters. They raised the children of species that saw them as tools. Human ships appeared above there on a quiet morning. They feared another massacre. Instead, they found soldiers bringing food, medicine, and a message. "You are free," the humans said. "No one will own you again." They wept. They had forgotten what freedom felt like. Across the galaxy, humanity found others like them. The burning worlds were prison planets, places where the Council sent anyone who dared to speak against them. Millions of beings rotted there, forgotten, left to die slowly under red suns. Human ships came for them too. Director IM coordinated the liberation efforts from the shadows. She had spent months studying Council history, finding every crime, every injustice, every species that had been crushed under the weight of peace. Now she used that knowledge like a weapon. Dr. Na was humanity's chief diplomat. She was a small woman with a soft voice and a gift for making others trust her. Before the war, she had negotiated trade agreements. Now she offered something more valuable than trade: hope. She traveled to neutral worlds, meeting with species who had watched the Council from the edges of the galaxy. Her message was simple. The Council told you resistance was impossible. They told you that their peace was the only way. Humanity is proof that they lied. You can be free. You can choose your own future. All you have to do is stand with us. 47 species declared neutrality in the first month. They would not fight for humanity, but they would not fight against them either. For the Council, this was disaster. Their power had always depended on unity. Now that unity was breaking apart. From the Council entirely. They had lost too many ships, too many warriors. Their pride could not accept what humans had done to them. Better to hide in their own space than to admit defeat. They went further. They had their own memories of Council oppression, old wounds that had never healed. When Dr. Na came to them, they listened. When she finished speaking, they joined humanity's cause. But not everyone was ready to surrender. High Arbiter refused to accept defeat. He gathered the species who believed in Council rule, the races who feared change more than death. 180 species answered his call. Together, they assembled the largest fleet in galactic history. 2 million ships. Admiral Park received the intelligence report in silence. His fleet had grown during the Liberation campaign, but not enough. Humanity had 30,000 warships. The Coalition had 2 million. The math was simple. If the Coalition reached Earth, humanity would die. Commander studied the enemy fleet from her command chair. Her brother stood beside her, running calculations, looking for weaknesses. They found few. "We cannot win a straight fight," said quietly. Nodded, "Then we will not fight straight." Fleet Marshal called a final council of war. The greatest minds in humanity gathered in a bunker deep beneath Earth's surface. Engineers, admirals, spies, and scientists. They had achieved the impossible already. Now they needed another miracle. President sat at the head of the table. She looked older than her years, worn down by the weight of leading humanity through its darkest time. But her voice was still strong. "They are coming for Earth," she said. "If they reach us, everything we have fought for dies. Our children die. Our future dies. We cannot let that happen." Chief Engineer stood slowly. His hands were shaking. He had been working on something in secret, something even the other engineers did not fully understand. "There is a way," he said, "but the cost will be high." He explained Everyone thought they were weapons. They were not. They were engines, massive devices capable of affecting a star itself. If activated at full power near Sol, they would destabilize the sun. Everything within 2 light years would be destroyed. Earth, the Moon, Mars, the entire human species. And any fleet stupid enough to be nearby. The room was silent. Director Im closed her eyes. Dr. Na covered her mouth with her hand. Admiral Park stared at the table, his face gray. President spoke first. "You are suggesting we threaten to destroy ourselves," she said. I am suggesting we give them a choice, replied. Peace through equality or death for everyone. They must believe we will do it. They must know we are not bluffing. Thought of 4. She thought of 12 million people who had only wanted to live in peace. She thought of her parents, her friends, the world she had lost. Some things were worth dying for. Do it, she said. One by one, the others nodded. They were moved into position around Saul. The coalition fleet continued its advance, and humanity prepared for its final stand. Win or lose, the galaxy would never forget what happened next. The coalition fleet entered the Sol system like a tide of steel. 2 million ships blocked out the stars themselves. Every species that believed in council rule had sent their finest vessels. High Arbiter himself commanded from the center, surrounded by the greatest warships ever built. They expected easy victory. Humanity had only 30,000 ships. The numbers told the whole story. But numbers can lie. Commander led the first defense line. Her 7th Strike Fleet waited at the edge of the system, 1,500 ships against 2 million. She knew they could not win. That was not their purpose. All ships, she said calmly. We buy time. Every minute we survive is a minute Earth has to prepare. Make them pay for every inch. Her fleet charged into the enemy. The coalition expected humans to form defensive lines to fight cautiously to protect their ships. Instead, human vessels flew directly into the enemy formation, firing everything they had, crashing into larger ships when their weapons ran dry. It was not battle, it was sacrifice. Stood at his sister's side, coordinating the chaos, finding gaps in the enemy lines, directing fire where it would hurt most. A cruiser broke through towards flagship. He saw it before anyone else. Hard starboard, he shouted. Too late, the cruiser was too fast, too close. Grabbed the controls from the helmsman. He pushed the flagship aside with desperate strength, saving his sister, saving the bridge crew. But his console exploded from the impact. Metal and fire tore through him. Reached him before he hit the ground. His eyes were still open. Blood covered his uniform. He was trying to say something, but the words would not come. I know, she whispered, I know. He died in her arms, the little boy who had followed her everywhere, the young man who had saved an orphan girl on a burning world, the tactical officer who had never missed a target. Her brother gone. Laid him down gently. She stood. Her face was empty of expression. She returned to her command chair and continued fighting. She would weep later, if there was a later. Admiral Park executed the broken path strategy from his position near Mars. Human ships did not fight in formation. They scattered in every direction, attacking from impossible angles, vanishing before the enemy could respond. The coalition's massive fleet became a weakness. They could not coordinate. They could not communicate. Every time they targeted one group of humans, another struck from behind. But it was not enough. 2 million ships could absorb terrible losses and keep coming. The coalition pushed forward past Jupiter, past the asteroid belt, toward Earth. Then High Arbiter received a transmission. President appeared on every screen in the coalition fleet. She looked exhausted, aged by war and loss, but her voice was clear and strong. You came here expecting easy prey, she said. You expected humans to kneel. Look around you. Look at what your victory has cost. Looked, he had lost nearly 300,000 ships already, more than any fleet in galactic history, and still humans fought. We have something to show you, the president continued. The image changed. 6 massive structures appeared, floating in space around the sun. They were ugly things, crude and industrial, nothing like the elegant technology of the elder races. These are, President explained. Our engineers designed them to destabilize your sun. That is what you expected us to build, but we did not build them for you. She paused. We built them for ourselves. Felt something cold settle in his heart. If you continue your advance, we will activate these devices. Sol will become unstable. Everything within 2 light years will be destroyed. Earth, your fleet, every human being who has ever lived. We will die, but so will you. The coalition fleet stopped. 2 million ships hung in space, uncertain. You wanted peace through domination, the president said. We offer peace through equality. Withdraw your fleet. Dissolve the council. Help us build something better. A galaxy where all species are equal, where no one can massacre innocents and call it acceptable. Her eyes hardened. Or we end this, all of it, including ourselves. High Arbiter laughed. His voice echoed across the communication channel, ancient and cruel. You are bluffing, he said. No species would destroy itself. You value survival too much. Humans are weak. Humans are afraid. President smiled. It was not a kind smile. Director I am, she said, 10% power. Deep in space, one activated. The sun flared. Light washed over the entire system. Every sensor in every ship screamed warnings. The star that had warmed Earth for billions of years shook like a wounded animal. It lasted only seconds, but those seconds changed everything. Stared at the readings. The humans were not bluffing. They would actually do it. They would burn their own world rather than surrender. What kind of species would do such a thing? The coalition fleet began to break apart. Ships fled in every direction, captains refusing to die for a war they no longer believed in. They turned on their former allies. Confusion became panic. Panic became chaos. High Arbiter tried to restore order. He commanded, threatened, begged. No one listened. His own flagship was struck by a fleeing cruiser, then another, then a third. The master of the Galactic Council died not in glorious battle, but crushed by the cowardice of those who had followed him. Within hours, the greatest fleet ever assembled had scattered. The war was over. 1 year later, the Galactic Assembly held its first session. 300 species gathered, not to command, but to cooperate. President spoke at the founding ceremony. We did not want war, she said. We wanted only to live in peace among the stars. You taught us that peace without justice is slavery. Now we will teach you what true peace means. Admiral Park retired to a small farm on a distant world. He planted vegetables and watched sunsets, and finally allowed himself to grieve for his family. Commander became the first human admiral in the new joint fleet. She kept a picture of her brother on her desk. Every morning, she looked at it and promised to protect others from sharing his fate. Dr. Null was elected first speaker of the assembly. Chief engineer led programs to share technology freely. Director IM disappeared, her networks now working to prevent the next tragedy before it could begin. They were dismantled, but humanity kept the blueprints. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humans did not start fights. They did not want war. They only wanted to raise their children, build their homes, and dream of the future. But when pushed, when their families were murdered and their pleas for justice were mocked, they would finish any fight, no matter the cost, no matter the sacrifice. The stars belonged to everyone now. And everyone remembered why.